Hi everyone, welcome to today's session on alcohol. And there's no judgment here, and I'm really here just to talk about how it affects our body and how it affects our hormones at perimenopause. And for women out there who are, in their 30s or in their 20s, this is still relevant to you because it will be having a massive effect on your estrogen, progesterone, your cycle, your PMS symptoms, etc. So this is still relevant, but obviously I'm going to be talking about perimenopause as well. And actually for any guys listening, it's relevant to you too. So as I say, no judgment here. I'm just really going to give you some sort of a bit of biochemistry really as to how alcohol is affecting your body, and some pointers really if you do want to actively reduce your units, and how to deal with that in a social situation. So when we're talking about alcohol, I want you to see alcohol as liquid sugar. So the first point is weight gain. And alcohol, and I liken it to even seeing rice and pasta, it's all sugar. And alcohol especially, very calorific, but it is liquid glucose. And this can cause a massive effect if you're suddenly getting weight gain at midlife. This is really not going to help. Whenever I do weight management programs with people, reducing alcohol is such an easy win when it comes to weight loss. But also because it's liquid glucose, it is having a massive effect on our insulin sensitivity and how well our body can metabolize the glucose out of the body or out of the blood into our fat cells. Don't forget that our body hasn't changed much in 20,000 years. Our body can only deal with very small amounts of sugar at any one time. And unfortunately, with alcohol, it gives you a massive high of sugar, which massively increases insulin. And insulin is our storage hormone. And as soon as we have high insulin levels, we basically shut off fat burning. So glucagon, the fat burning hormone, is shut off. So insulin, it can make us feel very warm and fluffy, which is why, a lot of my patients have a glass of wine before they go to bed, because it does make you want to go to sleep. But here lies the problem, and this is the second point, apart from weight gain. Number 2 is sleep. And I've done some research with some patients of mine that have a very sort of the fancy app that tracks sleep. And I cannot tell you how much that restorative sleep reduces, even if you have a couple of units before bedtime or in the evening. And the reason being is that it's linked to insulin. So what happens is a lot of people, as I say, have a glass of wine or a couple of glasses of wine before bed to help them get to sleep. And that's when the insulin is all fluffy, the serotonin, we'll get to sleep here nicely. And then they wake up in the middle of the night. And the reason being is because you've got that big spike of insulin, and then you have that high of blood sugar, and then you have a low of blood sugar in the night when you're asleep. And unfortunately, when we have a low of blood sugar, that releases stress hormones from the body, including cortisol and adrenaline and noradrenaline, because the brain does not like lows in blood sugar. So the brain sets off this kind of stress cascade, which then wakes you up. And this is why for most of us, if we drink, that it has a massive effect on our sleep. We are supposed to wake up, every 45 minutes or whatever for our survival. And if you can go back to sleep, then that's fine. But for a lot of people, they're not getting back to sleep because that's stress hormone, because of low blood sugar. So I would say for a lot of us, we get into this behavior, especially for some of us who have been through very stressful times. Please, as I say, there's no judgment here, because we have gone through, a full-on year. So be kind to yourself, but this is, as I say, I'm just giving you some information here to maybe make those small little changes that can have a massive effect. So we talk about weight, we talk about sleep, but one of the biggest things with alcohol is the effect on inflammation in the body. And at midlife, high inflammation is really not very helpful. In fact, inflammation at any point in our lives is not very helpful. And unfortunately, the alcohol increases inflammation. So it increases sort of inflammatory protein like CRP. There's loads of studies on this, and the reason being is that alcohol actually dysregulates our gut. So our gut is the biggest barrier against the outside world, apart from the skin. And what happens is that when we have alcohol, it increases what are called T junctions. And these are little junctions that stay, that doesn't look like a T, my fingers can't zoom back quite so much, but these T junctions keep things from outside the body, which is basically inside the gut, and the inside of the body is the blood. So the T junctions are in between the outside world and the inside world of the body, and they have to be kept very closely together. And what happens is that when we eat, the T junctions move slightly apart to let food into the blood, let nutrients in, and so forth. However, if you drink alcohol, that actually increases those T junctions to open up further than they should do, letting things through into the bloodstream that shouldn't be there. And it's the term is called leaky gut, which is the term for things like yeasts and candida, for example, burrowing through and getting into the bloodstream that shouldn't be there. And this is why alcohol causes inflammation. And the reason it causes the inflammation is because of gut dysbiosis. So it completely affects our gut bacteria, which isn't very helpful for brain fog. And if you're dealing with a lot of brain fog at the moment, helping your gut will have a massive effect here, helping to reduce that leaky gut, and reducing alcohol will massively help here. Anything like, mental fatigue, fogginess, even things like sort of systemic, lots of thrush, lots of itchiness, athlete's foot, all of those kind of systemic fungal infections, etc., leaky guts. And alcohol, as we say, alcohol is liquid sugar. So all of those yeasts that we all have in us, and fungi, we all have that in our gut microbiota. But if you're having lots of liquid glucose in the form of alcohol, that is feeding these yeasts. And actually these yeasts can massively affect our behavior. So for a lot of patients, it's not that you're being weak. It's actually your gut bacteria saying, yeah, please, or the yeast saying, feed me, feed me, feed me. And that's why, for a lot of us, we find it quite hard to stop eating refined carbohydrates and drinking alcohol as well. So this inflammation, and especially at midlife or at perimenopause and beyond, affects our hormones. And the reason is that the inflammation affects estrogen. It affects how well our gut is getting rid of excess estrogens. So if our gut is out of balance, if there's dysbiosis going on because of alcohol and other inflammatory promoting foods in our diet, like lots of omega-6 vegetable oils and processed food, etc., this is actually meaning that estrogen can get recirculated. Inflammation also increases weight gain round the middle. And weight gain around the middle increases estrogen and the not very helpful estrogens as well. And as we reach midlife, when I'm working with patients, it's all about helping you deal with lower levels of hormones so that we can go through menopause as we were built to. But what's happening for a lot of women is that we're becoming estrogen dominant even with lower levels. So this weight gain around the middle can increase estrogen and the not very helpful estrogens as well, the more aggressive forms of estrogen, but also increases in inflammation, increase estrogen, which then affect the ratio between estrogen and progesterone. So this is really key at midlife. We need to be making sure those ratios are similar, even at lowering levels. And the reason we want that is because progesterone is so much involved in mental well-being. It's completely linked with a neurotransmitter called GABA, which is very calming. So that's why anxiety is massively one of those first midlife, it could be happening in your late 30s, early 40s, and suddenly you're getting panic attacks, you're getting anxiety. It's like, where's that coming from? It can be to do with estrogen dominance that's dominating progesterone. And the reason is that lots of estrogen, you need more of a B vitamin called B6. And B6 is needed to get estrogen metabolized out through the liver. So the more you have, the more it's using B6. But the less B6 we have, the less progesterone there will be created. So B6 is very much involved with progesterone production. And so this is where inflammation, estrogen can then affect B6 stores, which then affect progesterone. So on top of weight gain, on top of sleep deprivation, on top of inflammation, alcohol also uses up our zinc stores to get it out through the lungs, through the breath, which is where it mostly comes out of, which is why, you know, your room will smell the next morning, because you've been releasing it through your lungs through the night. As one system, obviously the liver is involved here as well. So this is why alcohol, although when you have it, it feels very kind of calming, but actually it's stimulatory, not calming. But it does make you feel more calm. It's actually increasing your propensity to have anxiety. So if you do suffer with anxiety, caffeine is one, but also alcohol. And the reason is because it's taking zinc is needed to get alcohol out the body. And zinc is really important, especially for anyone listening who's trying to get pregnant. Zinc is really important for our reproductive health, but it's really important for our mental well-being. For anything like OCD, restricted eating, it's really important for our stomach acid, it's really important for our sense of taste and smell, to help us enjoy food, but it's really important for my patients with anxiety. So again, that's why drinking alcohol at this time, well, at any time of life, but at midlife, it really can really exacerbate perimenopause symptoms. So coming now to, just looking at the detoxification of alcohol, obviously the liver. And our liver is so important when it comes to hormone balance. You know, it produces something called sex hormone binding globulin, which keeps all our hormones in check, including testosterone. So if you're suffering with PCOS, you know, that is too many androgens in the body. You know, keeping your liver, you know, is always the focus. Keeping our liver health well will keep those androgens in check, so they can't exert testosterone-like issues in the body. Obviously, thyroid is very much dependent on good liver health in order to create the active form of thyroid hormone, which gets converted in the liver, called T3. And if our liver is being bombarded by alcohol, it's just not going to be functioning as well. And, you know, with most of my patients that come and see me, we do a gentle cleanse in one way or other, because most of our livers have been bombarded with sort of polypharmacy and toxins and alcohol for a long time. So giving it a cleanse actually helps massively with our sleep and our digestive function. It's in charge of digesting fats. But that sort of alcohol tolerance, you know, if you're drinking a lot, your liver then works much faster to deal with increased amounts of alcohol. So if you are looking to reduce your units, I would say it's really interesting, as you know, we live in the UK for a lot of you guys as well. And it's really interesting that in the UK, and I think this is different from other countries, if you say that you're not drinking, you're either an alcoholic or you're pregnant, or, you know, what's wrong with you? Why, you know, are you not really here to have a good time? You know, if you say that you're driving to a venue, it's often like, you know, why is that? And, you know, luckily I have a wonderful set of friends that aren't like that with me, and we're also going through very similar stages of life. But if you do feel that you feel uncomfortable about it, then I would always say, you know, if you go to parties, just be given that first drink, because sometimes just having that conversation with people, and people are like, why aren't you drinking? Are you not up for it, etc. Almost just be handed the drink, and then you can nurse that drink for the whole night. That's what I recommend to patients. And then you don't have to have the conversation. Nobody knows. Everyone loses track then of when you've had your glass refilled or whatever. So that's one way to sort of get around that sort of those social issues. But I think for all of us to be aware of, if someone says, no, I don't want to drink, just to empathize, and don't make any issue of it, and always have, there's so many amazing non-alcoholic options now. I always have those ready for guests. And for a lot of people, they've tried really hard to say no. And I think for some people, if they're constantly saying, oh, why not, have one, just have the one, I think it's really important to be conscious that just the fact that they've said no has often taken quite a lot of courage for that person to say that. So as I say, no judgment here, but I just thought it was interesting for you guys to see the sort of the far-reaching effects of alcohol. And I think I'll just sort of finalize, on a final note, is just to say, from my perspective, I like to drink, as higher quality of, but less of it. And I think that's the same with everything in life. For me, if I have a coffee, I want it to be a really good coffee. If I have chocolate, I want it to be really high-grade chocolate. And I'm mindful of it and I enjoy it. And I think that for me, that's what's happening as I sort of very much in midlife now, my sort of relationship with alcohol as well. So any questions, please just feel free to message me. I'm here to help. And I hope that was useful. Enjoy your afternoon. Bye.